Hey guys, welcome to another Freckle Friday, and today I'm gonna talk about me, I guess, my past, my family. So, I am 28, I'm a quarter Japanese, I've lived in Florida my entire life, for the most part, and I've traveled to other places, and it's been fun, but for the most part, I live in Florida, and I really haven't lived anywhere else. Let's see. I'm gonna start with my grandparents because they're the more interesting ones in my opinion. My grandmother is full Japanese. She lived in Hawaii for, I think, either all or most of her life. She was around when Pearl Harbor happened. She lived on Oahu, on Diamond Head, which is the mountain right above Pearl Harbor. So she saw the Japanese coming in and kamikaze into the harbor, and all I can imagine is that's horrifying. It was a big attack, and she was right there in her front yard. She could just look down and see, and that's I don't know. That's just really crazy. She was supposed to be married to a dentist or a doctor. Like, it was an arranged marriage, and I can't remember who exactly she was supposed to be married to, but she didn't like that, and she left to go to Japan, and this was during the time of the Korean War, and at the time my grandfather was in the army. He was in the army, and he was in a foxhole, and a grenade got thrown in there with him and 3 other guys, and he was the only one that survived. He was flown out to a military hospital. I believe it was in Japan, or it was really close to Japan. It was on the closer side of Korea. And he said to one of his buddies who was there in the hospital, you see that little woman over there? And it was Little Woman. It was always Little Woman. I love that whenever he talked about her, because she was tiny. She was 5 even on a good day, and he had to be 6'4". He was a really tall man. He was a big man. But yeah, you see that little woman? If I make it through this, I'm going to marry that little woman. And he did. He married her, and it was through I think it was through another person. Like, she set them up on a date, and it was just history from there. And the reason that my grandmother married my grandfather specifically was because she wanted very tall sons. She wanted tall children, big tall children, and she had my dad, who is Japanese, and I think he's like 5'11", 5'10", so I guess that's tall for a Japanese man, and he's half Japanese. I know that he was born in Maryland, and when he was 6 years old, his mother, my grandmother, had a stroke, and since my grandfather was still in the military, he was able to transfer over to the base that's on Oahu so that she could be with her family. And I always thought that was really cool. It was a very interesting way to do it, because it was just a quick arrangement so that she would be able to live her final days. And I say live her final days because the doctors gave her 6 months to live, and she had a stroke, and it was bad, but I mean, she lived until last year. She finally passed away last year. And I just think that's amazing that she was able to live through that diagnosis. And the fact that my dad got to live on Hawaii for a few years. He was 6 when they moved, and he got to meet his aunts and uncles, my great aunts and uncles, and live with them and learn Japanese and learn life on Hawaii, and I kind of envy him because that's a really cool place to live, I think. They moved to Jacksonville when he was 12, I believe. So he had 6 years in Hawaii, and then he came over to Florida. And it's interesting because her family is in Hawaii and his family is in Georgia. Like, most of the family is from Georgia. I remember really big family reunions where there was really good food. But, yeah. So they lived there for a long, long time, and my dad married his high school sweetheart, and they, after many tries, had me. And I was born when they were about my age, about 27, 26, in that area. And I think my dad was in the Air Force at the time, and we lived in, like, Melbourne, like in a bad apartment. I remember it wasn't the best is what they said. I remember what they said. It was kind of bad to live there. So I lived there for 8 months of my life, and then we moved into my house, my parents' house, and I had lived there all but 8 months of my life until I met my husband, Matt. But my mother, the high school sweetheart, divorced when I was 2, and it was really tough. I would see her every other weekend, but she didn't really seem to want to see me. So when I was 7 or 8, I think it was, he met my stepmom, and she's amazing. She's been a large creative force in my life, where she's taught me how to sew, in supplementation from both my grandmothers. They were both very creative people as well. My grandmother made her own wedding dress for her wedding, and my mom's mom, my other grandmother, Nana, she was always making something. She had quilts, she had clothes that she would make, she had all sorts of things that were just kind of around the house that I would help with. I'd usually end up pinning stuff together, and then she would sew it. And so, I mean, I have a very creative family. Even my real mother, she was very, very creative, always painting something. It was really cool. But I haven't seen her since I was 13. We had a huge falling out, and I decided I didn't really want that lifestyle, and I'm not really going to go into further info on that. But yeah, I haven't seen my real mom since I was 13, and I'm okay with that. So that is to say, if you have family members that don't seem to care for you as much as family members should, it's okay to go and be somewhere that you're wanted. But yeah, so my stepmother came into my life, and she nurtured and really kept me going on the creative aspect, and here I am. So I mean, I have gone to school for graphic design, mostly in college at UCF Orlando, and hopefully I can go back soon. I had to kind of step back because I had a car accident a few years ago, and I was okay. Everything was fine there, but my car was totaled, and I had to get a new one, and the hospital bills and buying a new car and everything, the money had just been really tight. Really, really tight. So I had to stop going to school, and that was tough. Like I said, hopefully I'll be able to start going back soon. I'm not sure if I'm going to go in the fall or if I'm going to go in the spring, but I gotta take it one course at a time, really, because there's one course that I had completely failed out of. I've failed it so many times that I really need to just focus on it specifically, and that's art history too. You wouldn't think that it would be that hard, but oh my gosh, it's hard. So I need to go in and actually, like, just completely focus on that just by itself and see how that goes. But yeah, I think I'm going to just continue to take one course at a time, because it just seems like so much, because I can't, like, not have a job. I have to have a job, especially to facilitate going over to Orlando, because it's about a 45-minute drive away from me every day. So I take 45 minutes there and 45 minutes back, and that takes a quarter tank each day. So as you can tell, it's not cheap. It's not cheap at all. So, yeah, so I have to have a job to go to school, and I think one course at a time would make it easier, and I'd be able to actually still do what I love doing, which is this channel, in the process. We'll see. I hope that's right. I hope that works. But yeah, I mean, I'm always open for questions. If you guys want to ask me anything, just put them down in the comments below. I'll answer them. That's kind of what this is about. The whole reason I've started doing Freckle Fridays is because I haven't found myself important enough to talk about, and I know that's kind of sad. But as I've said in previous vlogs, like I've always been told, you talk too much about yourself, and you need to talk about other things. And I'm like, but how do I talk to anybody without someone first knowing who I am? I mean, I expect someone else to tell me exactly who they are after the fact that I open up, because for the most part, everyone's just quiet. Like, no one really talks to me. They kind of just look at me like I'm crazy and then walk away. So maybe if I introduce myself, everyone will start being more comfortable and talking about themselves. It's really what this is about. This is about you and me. This is about us. So I'm gonna end this Freckle Friday here, and hopefully I'll see you in 2 more weeks. And I have more to talk about. More to talk about you, maybe. So, see you next week. Thanks for joining me. Bye!